This is the biggest language learning mistake that everyone is making, and that is slowing you down massively. This is the main reason why you're not fluent yet, and it's also the main reason why you will probably never be fluent if you don't change your strategy. Language learning has many problems. It always has had many problems, but in the last few years, there's been one main thing that has been ruining it for everybody. Well, there's Duolingo as well, but it's not even worth mentioning or talking about because no serious language learner uses that. I'm talking about a mistake that a lot of you are making. I would say most of you are making because you've been told that's what you should do, because that's science. I'm talking, of course, about comprehensible input. And I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, but let me tell you something that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. You will not learn to speak a language by watching YouTube videos. You will not learn to speak a language by watching Netflix, and you will not learn to speak by listening to podcasts. It doesn't matter what Steven Krashen or Steve Kaufman or any of those people are saying. It doesn't matter how many drooling Spanish videos you watch. None of that matters. And please don't tell me some nonsense about kids learning that way and kids being better at learning languages than adults because they do comprehensible input and all of that nonsense, because none of that is true. The reality of it is, there's no science behind comprehensible input. It's all wishful thinking. They're telling you what you want to hear instead of what you need to hear. It doesn't work, but people keep believing in it because it sounds good. The reality of it is that comprehensible input is necessary. You need to read and listen to the language a lot, but it's just one part of a bigger system. And by itself, it won't do anything for your speaking skills. You need to actively work on your speaking skills, your ability to produce the language, your ability to remember the language, to retrieve the information, and of course, to physically speak it. If you don't do any of that, no amount of comprehensible input will save you. You can watch 10,000 hours of cartoons, you will still not be able to speak. First of all, because you will not learn enough vocabulary by doing this, because for it to be comprehensible, you need to already know a lot of the vocab. And if you already know 95 or 99% of the vocab that piece of content contains, then why are you even watching it? It's an extremely inefficient use of time. You could have learned that vocab by simply memorizing it. So comprehensible input is not a good way to learn new vocab, and it's not a good way to improve your speaking skills. It's only a good way to review what you already know. If you learn a lot of vocabulary, if you learn a lot of sentences in the language, then you can review them by watching content, reading, listening to the language, but it's not very useful to learn new things. It's simple math. If you need to know 99% of the content to learn the remaining 1%, you're wasting 99% of the time that you're exposed to that content. You could have simply learned the content by itself, right? So this is what you should do instead. You should focus on learning what you want to be able to say, and you should learn it actively. Practice producing the language actively every single day. Yes, you should be listening and reading, but you should also be repeating sentences aloud all day. And you should be translating into the target language and getting feedback. Constantly making mistakes and getting corrected. This is how you improve at anything. Nobody learned to box by watching boxing fights. You don't learn by watching. You need to actively do the thing. No amount of so-called immersion will save you if you don't know the vocabulary already and if you don't practice speaking. So you should, first of all, memorize as much vocabulary as possible every single day so that you actually understand the content, actually interesting content. And then, of course, you should practice speaking as much as possible. Reading aloud, repeating sentences aloud, translating into the target language, doing all of that. Because otherwise, you will forever be stuck at the beginner level, watching those dumb videos for beginners over and over again for years, because you don't know enough vocab to watch the actually interesting stuff. And you won't learn to speak either. So the choice is yours. You learn the lazy way, and you waste a decade pretending to learn, and you will still not be fluent, by the way. Or you start learning seriously, memorizing lots of vocab, learning useful sentences, and practicing actively. And in a few months, you'll be fluent. It's as simple as that.